Hi guys, so I wasn't sure what to make my next video on, so I decided I'd just sort of film what I'm doing in my fish room, uh, and hopefully you can just learn from seeing what I do. So today I'm trying to decide if I can move some albino bristlenose plecostomus from this 20 long to this 125 gallon. And to do that, I'm using these Aquarium Co-op test strips. um, to test the water parameters. Mainly what I'll be looking at is pH, which determines how acidic or alkaline the water is. And the closer the two are to each other, the two tanks, the better for the transition for the fish. So I am going to run the test now and I'll tell you what the results are. So basically what you have to do to run this test, you take a strip out. There's just a giant bundle of strips in this canister. So I've got one. And what you do is take the strip and, as it says on the instructions, you swirl the test strip in the water for 3 seconds while holding on to the end, which I'm doing. So I'm going to do that in the 20 gallon first. Just open the top. Swirl it for 1, 2, 3. Now you have to hold it horizontally for 1 minute. So we're at 2 minutes on the video, so once we hit 3 minutes, I'll read off the results. While we're waiting, I'll tell you a little bit more about the test. Gotta hold it horizontal. So this test measures 6 different things. It measures nitrate, nitrite, water hardness in GH, buffer, pH, and chlorine. So chlorine isn't going to be a factor because the tanks are already established and I haven't done a water change recently, so there should be no chlorine. pH is a bit difficult to predict because it changes at a different rate depending on how much food is going in and how much decaying matter there is in the tank. Buffer, I believe, is high because my water is very hard. Hardness, also very high because my water is hard. Nitrite should be at 0 because if it wasn't, the water would be polluted to a point where it could be dangerous for my fish. And nitrate is a little difficult to predict. It's probably somewhere between 0 and 50 though, which is the safe range. Okay, so it's been a minute. Let's see what the results are and if I was wrong about any predictions. So, you hold the strip up to the chart and they all line up with their given measurement. Chlorine 0, pH 6.4, buffer 0. Okay, did not expect that. Hardness, I did expect it to be hard, and it is as hard as it gets, 300 ppm, parts per million. Nitrite is at 0 as expected, also in parts per million. And nitrate is somewhere between 50 and 100. So I should probably be doing a water change soon. Most important thing to know is the pH is 6.4 because we want to know how that compares to the other tank. Okay, so I'll run the same test again on the other tank and we'll compare the results. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Testing your water is important for pretty much all fish keepers because a lot of times it's impossible to diagnose a problem if you can't look at the possible causes. And water parameters can be a cause of a lot of different issues. You could have too many pollutants in the water, which would have high ammonia levels and nitrate levels, but ammonia and nitrite are the more dangerous. You could have things like way too low a pH. Some fish cannot tolerate a low pH, like African cichlids, most African cichlids. Some live bearers like guppies, platies, and swordtails, which I have. And other fish like a lower pH, although most fish are fairly adaptable to a range of pHs. But sometimes it requires generations to adapt to different pH than what they're used to in the wild. And other fish are just very adaptable. They can take almost any water parameters. Okay, so it's been a minute, so let's see the results of this test. Chlorine level 0, pH 6.4, buffer 0, hardness 300, nitrite 0, nitrate somewhere between 50 and 100. So I don't remember exactly what the previous parameters were, but I think they were virtually identical. And what that tells me is before I do anything else, I need to do water changes on both of these tanks. So I will not be doing those water changes in this video, but that's just sort of showing you what you can learn from testing your water. So now I know that I need to do a water change because my pH is lower than I'd like it to be. 6.4 is the lowest that the, let's see, 6.4 is the lowest the pH measurement goes. So it may actually be lower than that. So in order to make the test accurate or readable, I have to bring the pH up to a level where it's within the range the test covers. And my water out of the tap comes out at about 7.8, which is measured by this test. So if I do a water change, we'll most likely bring it into a point where I can measure it on this scale. So before I go, I'll just give you a little look at some of the fish, and I will see you in the next one. So here, my vampire swordtail, I guess you'd call them juveniles. They actually have produced some fry themselves in here, which I pulled out and put into this tank, where you can see one right there swimming with these guppies. This is a nice male guppy that I raised. I bought a trio of guppies from Twin Cities Guppies and stupidly caused them to die by letting the water get too cold. But now I have a heater in there, and these are two of their babies. I'm hoping the smaller of the two, is a female, and that they'll be able to breed so that I don't lose the strain. But only time will tell. There's another baby on the bottom there. I'm not sure if you can see that. So also in here, the fish that I'm considering moving are some albino bristlenose. I have a lot of albino bristlenose, so I'm probably going to either sell or give most of them to my local fish store. Although I could keep quite a few and just use them as more breeders, but that seems like a bad idea considering that I can't unload all the fish I already have. That's about it for this tank, and I apologize for the glare on the last tank. It's ridiculous. Here's there was a female bristlenose there. I do have a super red bristlenose male in here. He also darted away. There's a Corydoras fibrosus. Here's a large vampire swordtail male. He's got a nice sword on him. Here's a Corydoras paleatus eating a some sort of catfish wafer. I think it's called a meat wafer. Here's a female of the vampire swordtails. She looks nice and plump. There's another paleatus. And here's the super red male. Alright, so thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one, and bye.